one of the 5 most important items, according to Rupa Goswami, in all of our devotional activities: hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting the holy name, worshipping the deity form of the Lord, serving the Vaishnavas, and residing in a sacred place like Vrindavan. 5. Identified by Rupa Goswami of the 64 items, these 5 are most potent and particularly important for all of us to progress in our devotional lives. After that was over, there was some discussion about, wow, that was really a good experience, it really uplifted many people, and the feedback was very, very positive. So what's next? Should we, so it was decided that we did, have a seminar on how to, training and education, so that's what we're doing. Training and education on the topic of how a cultured devotee of the Lord interacts with others, with nature, with other living beings, with other Vaishnavas, with non-Vaishnavas. How do we conduct ourselves? What's the etiquette? Now, some of it is common sense. At the same time, common sense doesn't always prevail. Conditioning has a tendency to prevail, whether it's common sense or not. And, it's Kali Yuga, which means the good qualities of mankind gradually diminish and diminish and diminish. And therefore, reminders of what those good qualities are and how to achieve them and what does it look like and how to conduct ourselves going forward in time. Training and education and proper etiquette. Sadachar is the word that's one of the words that's used. It's a prominent word used in Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is what we're going to be discussing. Vaishnava Etiquette and GAURA Lila. GAURA Lila means the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Sadachar is a term that's used in Chaitanya Charitamrita repeatedly. I mean, not overbearingly, but repeatedly. Achar means conduct. And Sadachar means transcendental, or that which is in relation to Sat. The realm of transcendence. Behavior in the realm of transcendence. Or Vaishnava Etiquette. So part 1, for those of you that missed it, we just made an overview of different teachings, precepts. There was a list of, for example, this is just review from part 1, for those of you that missed it. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his writings, presents 8 principles of respect according to one's position. Human being, go upwards. Human beings that's civilized, following Varnashram. Human beings that are situated in a respectable position by their occupation or by nature, by their leadership, by their being a king, Raja, Maryada, and so forth. And just up and up and up and up. And the topmost in his list is one who is engaged in devotional service. So we're engaged in devotional service by the mercy of disciplic succession. And so respect goes to those persons, and we should be respect-worthy. What's the conduct of one who's receiving respect from others? What's it supposed to look like? And not going through the whole part one, but different lists. Madhu Samhita has its little list. There's a series of descriptions of what what are categories, and then we spent some time with a few examples of good conduct, good character, good conduct, good character. Even when somebody is inimical, the example was from Mahabharata, where Yudhishthir was respectful to Dhritarashtra, even Dhritarashtra knew all the bad things that Duryodhana had done. He didn't stop him. He's his father. He didn't say anything. He didn't stop him. But because he's the emblem of good conduct, of virtue, Yudhishthira was always respectful to Dhritarashtra in all circumstances. No exception. He was always respectful. And and even in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's case, we gave another example that was the godbrother of his spiritual master. His spiritual master was Ishwara Puri. The godbrother of his spiritual master was Ramachandra Puri. And Ramachandra Puri was a fault finder. He delighted in vilifying devotees for some discrepancy he found. So instead of honoring their devotion, he was looking for faults in the execution of what they did. And that was his business, fault finding. That was his fun. He was known for it. So when he came to visit Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the leading disciple of his godbrother, so he, Ramchandra Puri, wanted to come to visit Jagannath Puri and find fault. But he couldn't find any fault. So he invented one and vilified him because there were ants on the floor. Now, some of you have lived in India. You grew up in India. Some of you didn't. But you visit and you see there's ants everywhere, here and there. So he found some ants on the floor. And he pointed to the ant. We saw the very nice painting. Aha! You're a sannyasi, but you're eating so many sweets. There's sugar on the floor. The ants are coming for the sugar on the floor. What kind of sannyasi are you? So knowing that Ramchandra Puri was a fault finder, even before he made up a fault, he was respectful. So the principle that I was speaking on, and going to speak on it again today, today and this evening and tomorrow at the Sunday program, is of the principles of etiquette, fundamental, foundational to good conduct with all living entities, is respect. Say it negatively: without respect, you're not going to have good exchanges, good character in dealings with nature, with cows, with humans, with animals, with anything, without respect. So it's fundamental. So that's our topic. Vaishnava etiquette begins with respect, and now it's Vaishnava etiquette in GAURA LILA. So there's the background of why we are where we are. And some of you are maybe a little bit newer, maybe not. The painting on the left is depicting Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami was a principal author of Hari Bhakti Vilas. Hari Bhakti Vilas is an extensive, exhaustive citing of standards from Scripture and how to do anything and anything that a Vaishnav does, like how to chant, how to observe Ekadasi, how to observe Janmashtami, how to conduct a marriage, how to perform initiation, how to anything, how to anything. It's a how-to manual for a Vaishnav. And the author is pictured on the left. He was a Brahmana in his both not only his birth but his disposition, his character, his conduct. And he writes in Hari Bhakti Vilas the Vaishnava etiquette as the behavior of a pure devotee. Here's the quote from Hari Bhakti Vilas. Since nothing can be successful without sadachara, or etiquette, every action should be performed with proper etiquette. We must act according to proper etiquette. The heart of a saintly person is free from contamination. The way a saintly person acts is known as sadachara. So the sadachara is a display. There's written descriptions of what good conduct is, and a person who's a saintly individual, they display it. It's inside and it comes outside. They live by good conduct or proper Vaishnava etiquette. And again, nothing can be successful without it. So every action should be with it. Then there's details and details in Hari Bhakti Vilas about what good conduct is or good Vaishnava etiquette is. That very same person, Sanatana Goswami, who wrote Hari Bhakti Vilas, was spoken to at length. Instructions given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was pictured on the left. And there's a whole long section called Sanatana Shiksha, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving shiksha or instructions to Sanatana Goswami and all kinds of things. And towards the end of that narration, he says, praising his disciple, Sanatana Goswami, pictured on the right. My dear Sanatana, although you are the deliverer of the entire universe, and although even the demigods and great saints are purified by touching you, it is the character of a devotee to observe and protect the Vaishnava etiquette. Maintenance of the Vaishnava etiquette is the ornament of a devotee. And what's an ornament? Just like in literature, it's called alankara. It's literary ornaments that make writing very, very nice. There's different categories of literary ornaments. Poetic expression of same thing can be said very straight, and it can be said very sweetly or very attractively. And the examples in literature of ornamental language that makes conveying a topic very nice is ornamental. So the ornament of a devotee is this something that you wear. There's already some beauty, but the beauty of the beauty is the ornament. And Vaishnava etiquette it's something that's observable because there's something inside. It's very simple. Whatever's inside comes out. Supposing somebody is in the mode of ignorance, influenced strongly by the mode of ignorance, they don't have good speech and good conduct because what's inside is what comes out. Supposing somebody is situated in goodness, it comes out in the form of good conduct, good speech, good behavior. And then there's transcendental. Vaishnava is meant to be, at least we're moved towards transcendence and away from all three of the modes of nature. Certainly, minimally, mode of goodness, but transcendental, even beyond the mode of goodness. We'll hear about something like that towards the end of this presentation. This is another nice illustration of Sanatana Goswami, continuing the very next verse from what I just read. If one transgresses the laws of etiquette, notice in colored letters is Maryada, because we heard of Maryada from the list of 8 of Bhaktivinoda Thakur from part 1. Maryada means etiquette. If one transgresses the laws of etiquette, people make fun of him, and thus he is vanquished in both this world and the next. So he already praised Sanatana Goswami as being the emblem of good etiquette. By observing the etiquette, you have satisfied my mind. Who else but you could show this example? Sometimes we find persons that are vastly learned are proud. Not always, but it's not uncommon either, because they're carrying this load of wisdom or knowledge, and they like showing it off. I mean, sometimes it happens. So, a proud this knowledge isn't the ornament. The character is the ornament. Being free from pride or humility, that's the ornament. Amanit vam adambit vam, from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13. Humility and pridelessness. Or in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching about chanting, one should be free from all sense of false prestige, that's humility, and be ready to be tolerant of all disturbances, even if someone is dishonoring you. So, and the message, key message, is pleasing to Lord Chaitanya, or pleasing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. If Krishna can smile, if we can act in such a way that Krishna will smile, you can't ask for something more. Make Krishna happy, that's it. That's bhakti. So bhaktas are those that make Krishna happy, make Krishna smile. And if we do things that are and against it, just like the previous verse, if one transgresses the laws of etiquette, people make fun of him. Not only people make fun of him, but Krishna frowns. That's not nice. Don't be disrespectful, be respectful. You know, mothers will tell their children. Krishna will tell the devotee. Don't be disrespectful, be respectful. So now I'm going to go through some examples I chose for this presentation in Naperville, and we're repeating it here. There's a number of nice examples that end in this word Maryada. This is drawn from part 1. Respect to humans. Remember that kind of pyramid structure. Humans, and then those that are civilized, and then those that have good qualities amongst those that are civilized, meaning follow varnashram, and so then up and up and up and up. So we're starting with respect to humans. Nara matrera maryada. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is a pastime that took place from the time he took sannyas, when he was just 24 years of age, His mother requested him, don't go to Vrindavan. I may never see you or hear of you. Go to Puri. Krishna's there in Puri. And the devotees from Bengal, they go every year to Jagannath Rath Yatra. And they'll see you and get news of you. When they come back, I'll hear of you at least once a year. So please don't go to Vrindavan. I know you want to go to Vrindavan. Go to Puri instead. So he yielded to his mother's request. And he went to Puri. He didn't stay in Puri for too long. After he was there for some months, he made the request of the devotees, I want to go to South India and search for my brother. I have an elder brother, Vishwarup. When I was quite young, he took sannyas, and he went in South India, so I want to look for him. Please give your permission, give your blessings. So off he went. And along the way, with his arms raised, dancing in ecstasy of love of Godhead, he was chanting the holy names of the Lord. And one of the places he came is pictured here, where he found there was an elderly fellow that had leprosy, in a severe case of leprosy at that. So severe was there were worms that were eating away at his body. And this fellow, named Vasudev, the leper, he was so merciful to other living entities that when the worms that fell from his body, he would pick them up and put them back in the hole that they fell from. Pretty extreme. But that was Vasudev's nature. So in the painting, Nimai, now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, heard of this leper. And he went to see him. And when he saw him, he saw his quality and character, although his body was a wreck. His spirit was fantastic. And so, like a miracle cure, he embraced Vasudev. And when he embraced Vasudev, his body became nice again. The bad smell and the leprosy and everything. He looked like a young man. And needless to say, Vasudev was miracle cure amazed. Because people would stay away from him, and because he bad smell on his body, and a diseased condition, so people kept away. And Lord Chaitanya came, didn't know him at all, but embraced him. He cured him, and therefore there's another Maryada connected, which is he was a devotee. This extreme behavior that he had was because he was a devotee. There's another example of respecting humans, and this is a nice painting from Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Lord Chaitanya stayed in a little space called Gambhira in the house of Kashi Mishra in Puri, not far from the temple, but not so proximate either, so he had a little privacy, and so forth and so on. So he would go into the public and chant and dance in ecstasy, and after some time, he would lie down to rest. And the practice when he would lie down to rest was his servant, pictured here, named Govinda, he would massage his legs. And Lord Chaitanya permitted that. And on one occasion, Lord Chaitanya laid down in such a way that he couldn't get into the room. So he stepped over his body to massage his legs. And after massaging his legs, he stayed in the room until he woke up. And when he woke up, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw his servant sitting in the room. I said, what's going on? Why are you here? He said, because I couldn't step over your body, so I stayed until you woke up. And then the conversation went like this. Well, wait a minute. To massage my legs, you had to step over my body. So now you won't step over my body? And the answer was, in service to you, that's the exception to the rule. But the rule is you don't step over another body. That's an etiquette. Some of you know there's a very nice, similar but different passage when Hanuman meets Bhima for the first time. Long story from Mahabharata. Bhima is on a search for these 1,000 petaled lotuses. One came floating down the tributary of the Ganges, Alaknanda River. Draupadi found it. She asked Bhima, there must be more where this one came from. Could you get some more? So off he went, up the Himalayas and up 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 and up. And there was an obstruction in the way. There was a monkey lying in the path. You know the story. So he asked the monkey, could you please move so I can get by? The monkey said, oh, I'm too old. I'm too tired. Just let me stay here. He said, but excuse me, but you're right in the path. You could just move from the path. I'm too tired to move from the path. If you want, you can jump over me. He said, I can't jump over you because Paramatma is within the heart of every living entity. You don't step over Paramatma, who's in the heart of every living entity, so I can't step over you. Anyway, many things happened after that. It's a principle. Having not read Chaitanya Charitamrita or having not read Mahabharata, Prabhupada trained us the etiquette. You don't step over someone. Because it's an etiquette. It's just a Vaishnava etiquette. Now, there's a little bit of explanation why. Super soul is within the heart. However, the exception to the rule is in service, and then it better be a good, service that you're going to be doing, that you break the rule. But rules are for regulating activities, and then there's exceptions. That's a little example. So respect goes to humans, and respect goes to even an ant. This is from the same section of Chaitanya Charitamrita where Sanatana Goswami is describing Vaishnava etiquette, and he gives this example of Magari the hunter. It's from another scripture, but Magari, many of you know the story, Magari was a hunter whose livelihood was killing animals in the forest. One time, Narada was passing through the forest and saw these half-dead animals here and there and all over the place. He thought, this is horrible. Why? What's going on? So he found the hunter. And the hunter was busy getting his arrows ready for half-killing other animals. So he asked the hunter, what are you doing? He said, it's my livelihood. It's how I maintain my family. I kill animals here in the forest. And Narada said something very interesting. He said, may I make this request of you? Don't half kill the animals. Kill them completely. Why? Because they suffer. And for half killing the animals, you'll have to suffer same. Really? And then went on and on. And so Magari was requested to go ask his wife and family members, this is how I maintain you. Will you accept the karma for my half-killing animals? And they said, no way. We're not going to take your karma for half-killing animals. So he came back to Narada and said, They said, no. And I've got all this heavy karma. What should I do? I have to maintain my family. So Narada made the suggestion. I'll tell you what to do on one condition. What's that? You have to break your bow. What? That's how I maintain my family. I'll tell you how to maintain your family. Break your bow. He broke the bow because he had trust in Narada. He said, you go back to your family, live in your cottage very peacefully, and I'll make all arrangements to send you everything that you need to maintain your family. And what Narada understood was a man whose behavior was like this, when he became a peaceful Vaishnava, people would consider, a miracle cure. He has become this amazing sadhu instead of an animal killer. So they came and brought gifts to him, more than what he needed, so he would then distribute it. So the painting is showing, one time Narada came back to see how his disciple, Mrigari, the hunter, was doing, and see in the back right, that's where his little cottage was. And when Mrigari saw Narada coming, this time with Angira Muni, he came running, Narada Muni. But as he was traveling, there were some ants on the path, and so he got down on his knees, and with his upper garment started moving the ants, so he wouldn't step on the ants. And Angira said, just see, this man who is half killing animals now doesn't want to harm an ant because he's become a Vaishnava. This is your greatness, Narada Muni. This is what Angira said to him. So, respect for all forms of life. We discussed this in part 1. Respect nature, respect animals, respect cows, respect. Even an ant. Not just humans, but even an ant. Now, another one of the Maryada examples was respecting position. When he was still young, a young Brahmin boy living in Navadvip, Nimai had the occupation of being a teacher. He taught grammar, Vyakarana. And when he was still quite young, his father died. So he made the practice, as young boys will do. He went to Gaya to perform the Shraddha ceremony for his father. And when he went to Gaya, he went with some of his students. And he went up and up and up the hill. And the painting is showing, seeing the footprints of Lord Vishnu. So there he is, holding his heart, respecting the footprints of Lord Vishnu because he's a Vaishnava. Although he's a teacher, he's a Vaishnava. And the person by his left shoulder, it happens to be the one who would become his spiritual master. Ishwara Puri became his spiritual master. Ishwara Puri just happened to be in Gaya at the same time. So he's respecting the lotus feet of Vishnu, which is an essential element in performing the Shraddha ceremony for one's departed ancestors, worshipping Vishnu, worshipping the lotus feet of Vishnu, but worshipping his guru, or guru to be, at least a sannyasi at this point in time. So respect to position. And having missed, for those of you that missed part 1, all these examples, Maryada, the category of 8, is from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writings. These are examples demonstrated by Lord Chaitanya how to respect according to different positions. In the position of his mother, this is showing after he had taken sannyas, his mother came to see him, and there she is embracing her son, pleading with him, please don't go to Vrindavan. I know that's where your heart is. I'm appealing to you. You're my only son. My other son has taken sannyas. My husband has died. It's the only thing that's left for me in this world. Now you've taken sannyas. Please go to Puri. And crying and crying. And so he obliged, respecting his mother. Later, when he's living in Puri, there was a king of the whole area, the whole district, not just the holy place of Jagannath Puri, but the now Orissa. It was actually expanded Orissa during that particular time. The boundary was much greater. King Prataparudra was the name, and the king came to know that in his kingdom, living in Jagannath Puri, was this holiest of holy men named Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he wanted to meet with him. Mahaprabhu refused. I don't meet with worldly people. So the answer was no, and they tried this and tried that, and the answer was no. So then a suggestion was made, how about this? You meet with his son. The king has a son, a prince. So this is okay, I'll meet with his son. So this is a painting illustrating this wonderful event where Mahaprabhu is meeting with the son of the king, and there he is embracing the son of the king. And by embracing the son of the king felt ecstatic. Ecstatic. And then when his father embraced him, he felt ecstatic because he embraced one who had been embraced by Lord Chaitanya. It was very clever. And then later, this is another painting where Lord Chaitanya greets the king. And it was a trick. The trick was, every year at Ratha Yatra, Lord Chaitanya would go along the whole distance of Grand Road, dancing in ecstasy to the end of the procession, and where the deity was placed in a nice place for a week's time, and then the deity would be again put on the cart and taken back to the temple. It was like an annual festival, Rath Yatra, with hundreds of thousands of people. Then he would chant and dance in ecstasy, and halfway along the way, there's a garden, Jagannath Ballabh Garden. Some of you may know the place in Jagannath Puri. And Lord Chaitanya would take rest. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was the chief priest of the king, gave him the following advice. Halfway through the parade, or the procession, Lord Chaitanya will take rest in this garden, Jagannath Ballabh Garden. And I'll train you how to recite slokas while he's resting, and you would just recite those slokas from the Bhagavatam. And in his half awake, half asleep state, hearing those verses recited, he'll become ecstatic and he'll receive you. So that's what happened. He was resting. The king, not dressed in a king's attire, but dressed in regular, conventional Vaishnava attire, came before Lord Chaitanya, paid his obeisances many times, and began reciting slokas from the Bhagavatam. And as he heard the slokas, in an ecstatic mood, "Oh, you're so merciful, whoever you are," and he embraced him. It was a trick in order to have Lord Chaitanya embrace the king who he would not embrace otherwise. Respecting Raja Maryada. We also heard, part one, respect goes to those who are very learned or well educated, especially amongst the Brahmanas. So this is an illustration of one Brahmana from Kashmir. He had a name, Keshava Kashmiri. And it was kind of a sport amongst very learned people. They would go from this holy place to that holy place, to seat of higher learning, this university, that place, and they'd find who is the most learned person. They'd challenge them in a debate. You know, today it's like sports or something else. One sports person challenges another sports person for wrestling or, you know, something, some contest. So the contest in this case was erudition. So Keshava Kashmiri had a reputation. He had a whole entourage that would travel with him. And he knew that one seat of high learning in India at the time was in Navadvip. Many, many, many very learned brahmanas. So he made a visit to Navadvip with his entourage. And he was asking around, who's the smartest, most learned person in the whole of Navadvip? I want to debate them. And he was told, there's this young fellow. He's a school teacher. He teaches grammar, but he's a very learned person. That's the person you should find and debate with him. So walking along the Ganges, Keshava Kashmiri saw a group of boys, students of Nimai Pandit, seated around their teacher underneath a tree, and he came strolling over. And immediately, knowing who it was, Keshava Kashmiri, Lord Chaitanya didn't pretend to be respectful, but he was very respectful. He made an arrangement for a special seat for him, and he then praised the learned characteristic of Keshava Kashmiri and said, I've heard that you're an excellent poet. Could you compose some poetry in glorification of Ganges? They're right by the side of the Ganges. Oh, yes. I can recite some poetry. And he then spontaneously composed 100 verses in perfect Sanskrit, glorifying Ganges, not repeating himself with anything. And everyone was like, wow, he's a learned fellow, because he was showing off his learning. And respectfully, to the erudition of Keshava Kashmiri, he said, Nimai, the teacher, said, very well done. Amazing. Your skill is incredible. Could you let me know in verse number 64 of the 100, what are the qualities and the faults? And Keshava Kashmiri said, well, I was just composing some verses. I don't remember what verse number 64 is. And then Nimai said, well, I remember, and recited verse number 64. And then repeated the question, could you tell me the qualities and faults in verse number 64? And Keshava Kashmiri said, how did you remember verse number 64? Nimai said, some people are expert at composing Sanskrit poetry. Some persons are good at memory. Could you tell me the qualities and the faults in verse number 64? You know, respectful. And Keshava Kashmiri said, there was no faults, no doshas. Everything was alankara. Everything was of good quality. And Nimai then said, if you'd like, I can point out some of the discrepancies in verse number 64. Go right ahead. I heard you're a learned teacher. Go ahead. So he pointed them out and pointed them out and pointed them out. And Nimai Pandit stood and started to giggle. Like he just showed this puffed up, proud Keshava Kashmiri that he really didn't know his stuff. But he was proud. They were giggling. And then Nimai said, don't laugh. He's to be respected. And meanwhile, the learned Keshava Kashmiri was totally embarrassed. This kid just defeated me. And the rule in the sport of debate is the one that would win, the persons who were losers, they would become his student, and all the followers of the one who was the loser would become his followers. He would gather followers. So technically, he was defeated. That means Keshava Kashmiri should become the student of this teenager. And all of his followers become the student of the teenager. That was the rule. That was the name of the game. But Lord Chaitanya didn't rub his nose in the being defeated. He said this exchange was so nice. Please come back tomorrow. We can have further exchange. I enjoyed your company so much. So the Keshava Kashmiri is a detail. Keshava Kashmiri was a worshipper of the goddess Saraswati. And it was because of this benediction given to the goddess by the goddess Saraswati that he could speak so eloquently and defeat anybody on anything. So he then went into deep meditation and prayed to goddess Saraswati, what happened? You promised me that I would never be defeated. But you weren't there, so what happened? So in his meditation, Saraswati informed him, the exception is, there's one who is my master, and the person who you are speaking to, that's my master. He's the personality of Godhead, and my ability to make your tongue speak eloquently comes from him. So I can't defeat him. I can't help you defeat him. Therefore, I was absent. Then next day they met. And Keshava Kashmiri fell at his feet, begged forgiveness for his being proud and audacious and insulting, because he understood. Erudition doesn't give access to understanding the Supreme, or the source of everything. It can block, potentially can block one's understanding of the Supreme. Yet at the same time, all throughout this whole pastime, the word that's used in the verse in Sant Chaitanya Charitamrita is adara, or with adoration. Mahaprabhu continued to show respect or adoration to the quality of education of Keshava Kashmiri, or to the position of ashram. Here's a nice painting showing the sannyasi, who later became his guru, named Ishwar Puri, one time traveling to holy places, in places of high learning. He came to Navadvip. Nimai offered his respect to the feet of Ishwar Puri. Simply, of course there's the Lila involved, but simply out of respect, because he's a sannyasi. And this Nimai is a young fellow. So you offer respect because he's a sannyasi. And then later, he became his guru. So even more respect. There's a nice pastime in Puri where there was a disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or a follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was a sannyasi. His name was Chota Haridas. Chota was a nickname because he was Junior Haridas. And compared to another Haridas that resided in Puri, and his name was Bada Haridas. Senior, Bada Haridas. So Chota Haridas had some very nice qualifications along with being a sannyasi. He was very expert singer. That when he would sing, everyone would listen because he was mystical singer. And Mahaprabhu liked his singing and praised his singing. But one fine day, in order to make nice meal for Lord Chaitanya for his lunch, Bhagavan Acharya sent Haridas, Chota Haridas, to the home of Madhavi to gather some alms to make the cooking that Bhagavan Acharya was going to personally cook for Lord Chaitanya. And as he was eating the prasad that was offered to Lord Jagannath, he asked, where these ingredients come from? And Bhagavan Acharya said, oh, Chota Haridas, he went to the home of Madhavi Devi, and she gave this nice, very nice rice and other ingredients. And it doesn't say exactly what the exchange was between the sannyasi, Chota Haridas, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the lady, Madhavi. But he said, speaking in privacy and dilly-dallying with ladies is not the behavior of a sannyasi. Inform that fallen sannyasi, I don't want to see him ever again. If I were to die, seeing his face, my destination would be wrecked. So it was passed on to Haridas. And he felt really badly. What to do. Different persons tried to appeal to Lord Chaitanya, please be lenient. It wasn't really all that bad. He just was gathering alms, etc., etc. And he said, stop harassing me. If you continue this, I'm leaving Puri. So they stopped. And seeing the roadblock in his path, and he was so attached to Lord Chaitanya, he went to the confluence of sacred rivers and drowned himself in the sacred rivers. And the message came back to Lord Chaitanya, very good. For one who is an offender like this is appropriate. But what the painting shows is, in the evening hours, Mahaprabhu would sometimes go by the sea, and there's the painting of the angel-looking Chota Haridas in his subsequent situation, and he would sing very, very beautifully for the pleasure of Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya would enjoy hearing his singing songs in glorification of Krishna. So this is an example of respect. He respected the ashram of sannyas so much that when there's deviation, it was strong resistance to that deviation. Another nice painting where respecting education. While Nimai was a teacher, he had a number of friends that were also Brahmana teachers. And this Brahmana friend of his name was Raghunath Shiromani. This is not found in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but it's in another text. And this friend of his had written a commentary called Didati. It's a certain text, Tattva Chintamani, that he had written a commentary on, and he was like, he learned it, but a little like over enthusiastic about wanting people to accept and learn his commentary. And as a result, when his friend found out that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already written a commentary also, he was smashed because he knew Nimai is the best of all scholars. So the painting is depicting when Nimai understood that his friend wanted his commentary to be recognized by everybody, he took his commentary and threw it in the river out of respect to the learned companion of his, Raghunath Shiromani. Respecting education can take different shapes and forms. This is found in a book called Advaita Prakash. by one of the contemporaries of Mahaprabhu. There's a series of paintings showing when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reached Jagannath Puri. I'm just retelling, mainly this is narrations from Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Lord Chaitanya, at the request of his mother, went to Jagannath Puri, he went into the temple of Jagannath, and when he saw the deity of Lord Jagannath, in ecstasy, he fainted right on the floor of the temple room. And the guards thought this is a madman, so they were going to toss him out, lying on the floor. Just at that time, the chief priest of the king, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, pictured here, he came in. They saw they were going to toss him out. He said, no, no, no. Make an arrangement to bring him to my home. There's many details, but in his home, he offered to young Nimai, or now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a sannyasi, you're 24 years old. Your form is beautiful. And to maintain the vows of sannyas at such a young age, you're such a young, attractive man, it's going to be very difficult. If you like, I can protect you. I can protect you by training you in Vedanta Sutra, because sannyasis get strength from Vedanta Sutra study. And Lord Chaitanya said, you're very kind. I'll accept your offer. So the painting is showing the Grihastha scholar, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, for 7 days instructing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Vedanta Sutra, morning and night. And then the next day, and then the next day, and then 7 days straight. On the 8th morning, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, you don't say anything. I don't know if you're understanding or not understanding. Can you say something? And Lord Chaitanya said, I understand Vedanta Sutra very well. However, your explanations, the more you speak, it more covers the meaning. Oh, really? Well, if you understand Chaitanya Charitamrita, then you explain it to me. So very succinctly, in very eloquent language, it's right in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Lord Chaitanya's explanation to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya of Vedanta Sutra. It's very, very straightforward and very simple. And as he, the learned Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, was hearing this explanation, he exclaimed, I've never heard an explanation like this before. It's so clear. And how is it that you've been able to gather this understanding? With that, Lord Chaitanya smiled, and he showed, according to Chaitanya Charitamrita, simultaneously with his sitting before the scholar, he showed a 6-arm form. 6-arm form means 2 hands holding the flute, 2 hands holding a bow and arrow, and 2 hands holding his sannyas danda and kamandala or water pot, the symbols or emblems of a sannyasi, indicating he's all 3 personalities. And he disclosed this by showing this form. He didn't give a long explanation, he just showed this 6-arm form. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya fainted. And from that point on, he no longer considered him like a young, perhaps learned, but a young fellow, a young sannyasi that needs his skilled protection. So respect to education. Here's another example. There are several examples found in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya's life, where he is giving teachings to very learned brahmanas who then became his students and instructing them. And so respect to their devotion, because they're very devoted souls. This is a nice painting where Lord Chaitanya is showing respect to Haridas Thakur. We heard a little bit before about Chota Haridas. This is Bada Haridas, the senior Haridas. And he was the Acharya for the chanting of the holy name. And Lord Chaitanya respected him. And of course, Haridas is respecting Lord Chaitanya. When he left his body, Lord Chaitanya picked his body up, carried it to the sea, bathed his body in the sea, brought his body back with his own hand because he knew the rituals. He performed his funeral and placed his body in samadhi, the very place where the samadhi of Haridas Thakur is there still today. Those of you that have been to Puri, it's a very nice place. It's a little bit removed from the hustle and bustle, but it's a very nice place. The samadhi of Haridas Thakur, arranged by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. He picked his body up and chanted and danced in ecstasy of love of God. You see in the background, that's the Puri temple. And last but not least, a very interesting, I was searching, just little confession, I was searching the internet for pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with nice illustrations, and I found this one, like many times, and I didn't know the pastime. What is this representing? So I asked a devotee who is Varsana Swami. Maybe some of you know who he is. Maybe some of you don't know who he is. He's I've known him for like 40 years, and from when we were quite young, in our early days of Krishna consciousness, he was up to here in GAURA Lila, and now he's up to here in GAURA Lila. So I asked him, "What's this painting about?" And he wrote back a long text, which I asked it to be forwarded to all of you. And I'm just going to narrate what's in that text, and then you can read the text because it's very interesting. He's learned. Varsana Swami is a learned lover of Lord Chaitanya. And it's not from Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's from Chaitanya Mangala. When Nimai was young, he was a school teacher. He taught grammar in Navadvip. And he had a friend who was a little older than him, maybe something like 8 years older than him, that was a Vaishnava, and he had some inclination to logic and reason. And so, because of the intimacy of the two, there's an eternal relationship between the two. I'll go into that shortly, but because of the intimacy of their relationship, he took liberty to do things that looked like disrespect, but it was purposeful. It was to help his dear friend, Murari Gupta was his name. By profession, he was a physician, a Vaidya. And he was a Vaishnava. He was a worshipper of Lord Ramachandra, particularly, very strong. In fact, it is said that he's a manifestation of Hanuman, or within him is an angsa, an expansion of Hanuman. So he had that bhav of deep devotion to Hanuman. At the same time, he was influenced by his time, in that scholars of his time had some Yoga Vashishta inclinations. They had inclinations towards scholarship. And those that had inclination towards scholarship of his time, that had impersonal tinge to it. And so he, his little bit older friend of his, Murari Gupta, would like to expound, as scholars would like to expound on their learning, and he would give teachings on Yoga Vashishta. And sometimes Lord Chaitanya, now at that time, Nimai, young boy, would follow behind him with his friends, and they would laugh at him. And because he was an animated young scholar, Murari Gupta, he'd move his arms and speak in this way and that way, and making fun of him, Lord Chaitanya, right behind him, would say the same things, and that all of his friends would laugh because he was making fun of Murari Gupta. Murari Gupta looked back and heard the laughter. What's going on? Then he understood, oh, Nimai's making fun of me. He didn't say anything, kept going, and the behavior continued, and Nimai continued making fun of him. So finally, he got irritated. Murari Gupta got irritated and stopped and said, what kind of behavior is this? You're the son of Jagannath Mishra. And that for the son of Jagannath Mishra to behave like this is very disrespectful. It's inappropriate. Please stop. So Nimai said, very well, I'll teach you a lesson tomorrow. What Nimai wanted him to stop was Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma and Soham and all these phrases that are from the Shruti mantras that were interpreted by Yoga Vashishta as impersonal. Although Lord Chaitanya knew in his heart he's a devotee of Ramachandra, and he's just mixed up, borrowing from this and that. So the very next day, as was promised, he had done his worship of his deity, of Ramachandra, and he was sitting down to take his prasad. And as he was coming to take his prasad, and he was meditating on the deity of Lord Ramachandra, and suddenly in his mind came the form of this beautiful young Nimai. And he was very attracted to Nimai's characteristics and his features. And then shortly thereafter, Nimai came through the front door. And then as he came through the front door, he came right over to where he was preparing to take his meal and urinated on his lunch. Not very nice. And Murari Gupta was taken aback. And then Nimai said, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. So why are you upset with me? Everything is Brahman. This is Brahman, that's Brahman, everything is Brahman. And Murari Gupta then understood what his objection was. It's a teaching that he doesn't live by. The realization was imperfect and shallow. And then Nimai scolded him, give up this wrangling of impersonal teachings. If scholarship isn't going to get you to your deity, Lord Ramachandra, become a pure devotee of Lord Ramachandra. And then just disappeared. Murari Gupta, then had the realization that this isn't just a younger friend. This is an exceptionally elevated soul. So he finished his meal, went to Jagannath Mishra's home where Lord Chaitanya lived, and saw little Nimai, 5 years old, hiding under the sari of his mother, as if he couldn't be seen just by holding the cloth of his mother's sari over his head. And Murari Gupta came before Nimai and offered his obeisances to Nimai. And then the father, Jagannath Mishra, said, what are you doing, Murari? You'll bring ruination to my son by paying obeisances like this. And Murari said, Jagannath Mishra, one day you'll understand who your son really is. And he turned around and went back to his home. There's many other things that happened in the exchange of these two. So, some of them are found in Chaitanya Charitamrita, many, many things. Because of time, I'm not going to go into it. But there's a very intimate, loving relation. And the main thing of this is he was a Brahmana, elder, in a few years, elder to Nimai, but his respect was shown by helping him become free from impersonal speculation. Because impersonal speculation will block bhakti. And he knew that he's a Ram Bhakta, but he's doing this other thing, so give it up. Just give it up and take shelter of Lord Ramachandra. And that's what happened. There's many other nice things that are in the exchange between the two as they grew up later. But I just wanted to illustrate this interesting painting. And in this way, there's other examples and many other examples of the principle. So we're circling back to the main topic. Vaishnava etiquette, as per teachings of Manu and others and others and others, Lord Chaitanya exhibited them because he was an exemplary personality. Krishna himself, in the mood and role of Krishna's devotee, teaching Vaishnava etiquette, sadachar, proper conduct. And this last one is a little, it's there because it's humorous. I found Varsana Swami's explanation, which is directly from scripture, being very interesting. So I thought, show the picture and narrate this humorous story and end on a happy note. So there's a lot of people here. Thank you all for coming. Thank you very much. Now let's see if there's some discussion or comments or something you'd like to cover. Here's a runner of the microphone. Any comments or questions? Okay, back there.
Just a little comment. I really appreciate the topic, Maharaj. It's very sweet, Vaishnava etiquette. It's very easy to forget sometimes how to deal with one another, especially when we become familiar with the devotees. Familiarity could be very, like almost like influential sometimes, that, it's easy to forget that, actually we're dealing with Vaishnavas. They're not like normal beings, they're devotees, but yeah, and I feel like, if you really meditate on this Vaishnava etiquette, maybe that's a medicine for someone not to fall into the trap of Vaishnava aparat, and and basically this is the only thing that blocks bhakti. I mean, anything else somehow or another could be forgiven, but Vaishnava aparat is like a very bad, so
very serious stuff.
Very serious stuff, and yeah, thank you, Hare Krishna.
Well, here's two things in response. I chose, because there's many, and the topic is vast, so I chose to make reference to scripture because that's Guru Sadhu Shastra. We're guided by Shastra. So, all three parts, starting with the first part that's principle, then demonstrations of the principle found within Shastra, because that's the light that guides us. And side by side, I knew the other co-speaker was Radhakrishna Prabhu, who was mainly speaking about application. So I was doing the Leela, and he was doing the application of the Leela. But so it's a good team. And a second thing is, the plan is every year, probably it's the same Martin Luther King National Holiday Weekend, every year for a number of years, we'll conduct programs like this. So if you're not wondering what you're going to do next year at Martin Luther King holiday, you can come to Naperville. The co-speaker is going to be Brahmatirtha Prabhu. He's already committed. Brahmatirtha, some of you that don't know him, you may know him from the title of the book that was Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers. He was the perfect questioner, and Prabhupada was the perfect answerer. But he is a very affable individual. He has a great sense of humor. He has abundant Vaishnava etiquette in his character. And his current service, he lives in Gainesville, Florida. And he has full responsibility for the Bhaktivedanta Institute of Higher Studies, BIHS. And the people at BIHS, have been commissioned by the GBC to make the plan for the planetarium in Mayapur. That's like weighty service, because there was another person that was doing it, and there was some dissatisfaction. He was without all the stuff. The GBC, made the request of Brahmatirtha and the devotees in Gainesville to make a plan. So it's not all that they do. They just had a seminar the same weekend that we had the seminar in Naperville on the studies of consciousness in science. Very high stuff. And PhD and astrophysicists and people as their speakers. He's a very gifted person. So next year, Martin Luther King weekend, the dates will change by lunar calendar, by solar calendar, but part 2 of Vaishnava Etiquette, and then part 3, part 4, and we'll carry on. Because it's important, as you said. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have one comment and one question. Comment is, thank you for sharing that the reason behind why one should not step over another person. As growing up, my parents had told me that. Now I followed it blindly without understanding that. I never questioned it.
Yeah.
I never questioned it. But when I tell my kids, they question me why I shouldn't do it, why they shouldn't do it, and now I have the answer at least to tell them. So when I have an answer, I think they will understand and obey or follow that. The question I have is, going in that direction. You talked about Mrigari and how he didn't even want to step over an ant.
On an ant.
On an ant, yeah, on an ant. But in practical life, as we are walking, at least for me, as I'm walking, on the streets and everywhere, I am not paying attention in that level of detail on whether there is an insect or a bug, or unknowingly, many, I step over many of those living entities.
Well, step on, not just step over.
Step on, yeah, step on even, yeah, step on and step over.
That was the thing with the ants. He didn't want to step on the ants because they were all over the path. So he got his garment out and was moving to the side so he could run and fall at the feet of Narada Muni. So, what to do when you're not aware, what to do. Yeah. That's your question.
What is yeah.
Okay. The etiquette is, this is from Prabhupada, a training that I received is, this is from a lecture that he gave in Los Angeles. That by your breathing, living entities are being sacrificed. By drinking water, living entities are being sacrificed. By existing, living entities are giving up their lives for you, your sake. Therefore, and then he went on, so even when you walk across the lawn, you're stepping on living entities, trampling on the grass and all the bugs or whatever else is there. Therefore, anything that one does should be in the service of Krishna. Don't walk across the lawn unless it's in the service of Krishna. No, if your life is service to Krishna, then you're covered. It's not like, okay, my life is in service to Krishna so I can kill living entities left and right and sideways and no problem. We're respectful. There's a mosquito. I could just slap the mosquito or whatever. But we don't, because they're living entities. And super soul is within. There's a soul also. So we're respectful. We may do needful things. We do needful things. But what's needful? To carry out your service to Krishna. And otherwise, you tolerate some discomfort or inconvenience or something. We don't have a license because we're Vaishnavas. We can just bully our way around the world, throughout our life. We don't do that. We're respectful. And if there is something incidentally or accidentally, we're not held responsible karmically, and that living entity gets an elevated position because they've given up their life in the course of contacting a Vaishnava. So they have to be elevated Vaishnavas. That's what to do. Small thing, just become an elevated Vaishnava.
Vaishnava.
Okay.
Maharaj, I was listening to the lectures, and for the Grahastha life, what is the best Vaishnava ethic? Because most of the time we are spending with the other spouses. So, what is the best ethic we follow for this?
What's the best what you used to follow?
Yeah, best Vaishnava etiquette. Vaishnava etiquette, what is
best etiquette to follow? Well, you want the best, chant Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
And then downstream from that, so one who's chanting Hare Krishna, what's the etiquette they follow? And I'm indicating the whole topic that I chose to speak on is minimally respect. And respect for all living entities, and then commensurate with their position. And especially the bhaktas or Vaishnavas. Respect. But that's true for any ashram, not just Grahastha ashram. Then there are duties that Grahasthas can do, should do, and you do those for Krishna also. With the idea, not just check the box, but this is my Grahastha duty, check the box, but for the satisfaction of Krishna. Let me ask you a pointed question, since you've asked me a pointed question. You're a Grahastha, I've noticed. And you're not only a Grahastha, but you're a devotee. You're trying to be a devotee. And trying to be a devotee, you have first initiation and second initiation, yes? So one of the opportunities and responsibilities of a Grahastha Brahmana is to worship the deity. Do you worship the deity? In the home? What about at the temple?
when the pujaris were not there, we were helping to do the service.
Okay. What about something regular?
Yes.
Because the more the merrier, right? I mean, it's for you and for the deity and the relationship with the deity that you worship the deity, not just when occasion is needed. And I'm speaking to you, but by speaking to you, I'm speaking to everybody in the room that has second initiation, and maybe on festival days or necessity days, but on a regular basis, because things that are beneficial should be done regularly. Take the other four. We hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly. We serve the Vaishnavas regularly. Then there's other duties that go along with being a householder, charity, and so forth and so on. But top is this bhakta. Those have and you have it's acknowledged. I'm repeating myself, but it's acknowledged that you have some attainment in devotion. So show by example. In your home, yes, and in the temple, yes. Not just you. I'm not picking on you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
It's for everybody. And the principle is more persons come forward. I mean, it just happens. The Hare Krishna movement is growing, and new people come in the door. New people come in the door, they start to learn XYZ. And one of the things of XYZ is you do bhajana kriya in the association of sadhu sangha bhajana kriya. And then comes the big one, the big mountain, the anartha nivritti, eradication of unwanted things. And then somewhere in there is diksha. So what do I need to do? What do I need to do to become qualified for diksha? And then once I have that qualification, receive it, then what? What am I supposed to do? And that's the Hare Krishna movement going forward. 50 years from now, what's it going to look like? And it depends on what people today do. It's going to help determine what the future looks like. So what's the standard? Therefore, this little remark. Better watch next personal question you ask me. You might get something else back. Okay, behind you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, you mentioned about the Chota Haridas story, right?
Yeah.
And Chota Haridas actually, drowned in the sea and committed suicide.
Well, river, yes.
Yeah, in the river. So, and you mentioned that Mahaprabhu was like, okay, I mean, she deserves that.
Everyone was shocked. And Mahaprabhu not only was okay, he said, this is the only appropriate behavior for someone who's transgressed the etiquette of a Vaishnava, of a sannyasi. He was heavy. And why was he heavy? He loved Chota Haridas, shown in the he loved him. But he wanted to set an example, like strong. So now, your question.
Yeah, my question was like, he was a very good devotee, but
He was a good devotee.
but
He made a transgression. Now, normally we're forgiving when people make transgressions. Mahaprabhu, you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, that section, and you'll find the explanation. Why? Why was he so heavy? Because in this age of Kali, people make a show of sannyas and meanwhile engage in nonsense. It's not at all representative of the sannyas ashram, and Mahaprabhu didn't like it. So for his dear devotee, he took the example of admonishing him so strongly so that people in the future would not get the wrong understanding about bhakti is for people that don't have control of the senses. Sannyas is for people that don't. He didn't like that. He didn't want that. So he set a strong example. But he didn't break from Chota Haridas. He engaged in hearing his singing in a different way. But it was to give instruction to the world. Strong. You don't become a follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and do nonsense. Strong.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
I'm very new. I'm trying to understand.
Which
When
one?
you earlier you said like when you are cutting a lawn or walking on the lawn, you could step on an ant.
It's not like it's okay, but it's not sinful. If you're in Krishna's service, and there by accident, so make sure when you're walking across the lawn, you're doing some important service for Krishna, not just kesara asara.
So what would I consider? I mean, like in my day-to-day life, right?
Yeah.
So everything I do is for a duty of me. I mean, like if I need to cut a lawn. If I'm a farmer, my dad is a farmer. We have to plow the lands, and we have
Fine.
to all these things.
Fine.
Would that constitute as I'm
No.
constituting something here? Or?
Supposing you're a householder and you have to mow the lawn. You mow the lawn. When you mow the lawn, the grass is being cut, insects and whatever. You have to breathe.
Right.
For Krishna.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah, got it.
I mean, the emphasis, we had this nice discussion in Naperville. There's morality and there's Bhagavad Dharma. There's virtue and there's paradharma, devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Arjun, killing. You don't kill. Krishna said, so you kill, he's obliged. And he did. Skillfully. But then it's paradharma. And there's a distinction between dharma and paradharma. There's a distinction between morality and service to the personality of Godhead. So be clear what the distinction is and follow the service to the personality of Godhead. How do I do that? Well, it takes intelligence, spiritual intelligence, to discern this from that. That's what intelligence does. It's a function that discerns this from that. Faculty of discrimination. So what's in the world and what's transcendental? So go in the direction of I'm supposing I'm not there yet. Go in that direction under the authority of Guru Sadhu Shastra. And genuinely, not cosmetically, but genuinely, sincerely, strive in that direction. When you hear something from Scripture, then you let the other thing go and you do the thing that you heard from Scripture because it's scripturally directed. It's like cooking. When you cook, living entities are giving up their lives. Offered to Krishna. Because it's for Krishna. It's not for your palate. It's not for your physique. We do things that have that consideration. This is healthy and that's unhealthy. Anyway, for Krishna. It's a principle to live by. That's the bhakti principle. And you practice it and practice it and practice it and practice it. Like anything, you practice it. It becomes second nature. It's just how you live your life. Supposing you don't practice it, your life is all over the place. Not you, anyone. Bahushaka yanantasya. Many branch, bahushaka. That's material life. No focus, no center. But there is a center. And bhakti is make clear what the center is and go for it. And it's not easy. It's not like, okay, what's next? It's a cultivation. But that's why we're doing what we're doing. Examples from Scripture to guide us, making wise decisions, what to do and not to do. Anything else? Anything over here? Silence on this side of the room. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.